1 month on from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Zelenskyy remains in office and Russia has failed in its initial objective. This map shows Russian gains over the past month. You can see some advances, but nowhere near what was expected. Most of the country remains under Ukrainian control, so where has Russia gone wrong? My assessment at the beginning of this war was that if Putin doesn't win quickly, he doesn't win. I think that still holds true. The Russians made the fatal mistake. They underestimated their opponent, believing they'd be welcomed as liberators. The Russians deployed some of their elite forces first. They failed to hold their objectives in the face of Ukrainian counterattacks. Ukrainians simply fought more flexibly.
The fact that the Ukrainians have managed to kill so many generals is remarkable, and it's not just due to phenomenal work by the Ukrainians. It's due, it seems, to the fact that the Russians have communications problems. So the generals have to go closer to the action in order to see what's going on. It's remarkable. I don't know any other war where so many generals have been killed.
In real warfare, logistics are fundamental. Poor logistics are Russia's Achilles heel, and a lot of their equipment is poorly maintained. They were told they were on exercises. They were not supplied for a long campaign, and their difficulty in resupplying has left them vulnerable to counterattacks. This stalled convoy of Russian vehicles is the perfect example. In Iraq in 2003, the US dominated the airspace from the start. We expected to see the same here, but Ukrainian jets and drones are still flying. Their command and control remains intact. Russian forces are vulnerable to air attack. So why isn't the Russian Air Force doing better?
Russian fast jet pilots get somewhere in the region of about 80 to 100 flying hours per year. That compares pretty badly to Western counterparts. So even in the air forces that are struggling with funding to maintain flying hours, you're still looking at significantly more than that in general. And an air force like the US Air Force would often be getting between about 200 to 250 live flying hours a year in a fighter squadron.
Putin thought the West would remain a bystander. He was very wrong. Sanctions and the withdrawal of so many companies from Russia is punishing their economy severely. And the Ukrainians are putting to excellent use the weaponry supplied to them by the West. These NLAW anti-tank missiles donated by the Brits are just one famous example. It's become clear that the Ukrainians have good intelligence gathering. They've weaponized the disillusionment of many of their Slavic brothers in the Russian military opposite them. Military organizations can learn to adapt and overcome their failings. And if Putin decides to take the war forward as a battle of attrition, then his military will do that. It means scenes like the horrific bombardment of Mariupol may be repeated.
Whoever tries to hinder us, and even more so to create threats to our country, to our people, should know that Russia's response will be immediate, and it will lead you to such consequences that you have never encountered in your history.
Putin will keep trying to frighten NATO with statements like this, while his attrition strategy is given time to work. But the longer the battle goes on, the more sanctions will hurt Russia and casualties will mount. That's why, now that he hasn't won quickly, he loses. Russia's forces might still do well and win a new variation of Putin's war, but if so, he still loses the peace.